foremost, welcome to the 2024 CNC Connect Conference. It's been 5 years since our last conference, and it's great to see everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Court Fowler, President of CNC, and again, I'm happy everybody's here.
Hey everybody, Murphy Buggs here with CNC. I'm the Property Training Manager. We're here at CNC Connect 2024. We've had some great guests. We've had some breakout sessions on the flood and the property side, getting ready to start our general sessions this afternoon. So we're really looking forward to that. There's been a lot of CE credits that's been offered and great exhibitors with great vendors that we've partnered with for this conference and in future endeavors throughout our claims handling process.
Hi, my name is Craig Kepner. I'm a new independent adjuster. It's been a fantastic experience. Really, the sponsors, the leadership here, the knowledge that I've been able to pick up, but then really especially really connecting with the other new adjusters.
The speakers have been fantastic. We got a chance to see a lot of people that we would never see, from the insurance commissioner of Alabama, to Hal, the weather guy.
The favorite part, well, it has to be, getting to see everybody. I know with COVID, there weren't very many opportunities, and I love to make new friends and see some of the faces behind those phone calls that I've been having here for about the last year or so.
The conference was awesome. It was well put together, very well organized, and the conference would mean nothing without the people. So the people that were here were awesome as well. All of the classes were very informative. It was easy flow from one classroom to the next, and the information that we got was very pertinent to what we do every day.
So the CNC Connect really, brought everybody together. Just like Mr. Fowler said, it's about connect. And the connection that we made at this conference is really going to go beyond this past 3 days.
We just wrapped up day 3 of our conference, CNC Connect 2024. We had a fantastic conference. Today was our certification day where we did a lot of carrier-specific certifications. It went great, went fantastic. Want to do a big thank you to all of our sponsors, obviously all of our attendees, everybody that made this possible. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms as you look to stay connected with us throughout 2024.
I've worked with CNC since 2008 at Hurricane Ike. I've done, I believe, 7 or 8 hurricane deployments with them. My experience with CNC has been nothing short of amazing. Anytime CNC asks me if I'm available, I always say yes. They are my #1 choice anytime I'm going to be deploying for a major event. They are trustworthy. I love working with them.
I've been working on Hurricane Ian flood claims for the last 6 days. This is my first year working for CNC, and it's been a great experience. I've had so much support and so much training through so many different people at the company. If there's one person who can't help me right away, they'll get me to somebody who can, and that's been the main reason why I've wanted to stick with CNC this year, is because of the amount of support that they've provided, and they're really helping me excel.
When I think back to where we started, there's one thing that still is a thread in the lining from where we were, where we started till now, and look at that as family-run business. The family values, the goal to respect everybody as individuals, treat everybody as family.
It's just how much people love to work here and love being here, and the commitment that they have to each other and the commitment they have to the company. I can't say that you found that in all places. I'm sure you do find it at some places, but man, we've got people that work here 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning deploying people. They never complain. They never ask for anything special. I think that's definitely a great example of an aha moment that people really do love being here, and they love what they do. And when you have that type of team, then to me, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish as a team.
The minute you walk in the door, you're gonna feel welcomed. You're going to see a smile on people's faces, and you're going to feel like you're home. I have for 17 years now. I have had that feeling from day one, and I still have that feeling.
It's the family atmosphere. I mean, you're going to hear that from everybody that's here. It's the family atmosphere. It's being a part of something. And having the opportunity to grow. It's all about what you want to put into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 5 of Claims Corner. We are super excited to have you back with us today for Episode 3. This episode is titled, Better Safe Than Sorry or Worse. So I know we had a lot of fun putting this episode together, and we're super excited to get into it, but a couple housekeeping items first. If you recognize us and have seen us before, we are obviously happy to see you and have you back with us. If you're not, my name is Murphy Buggs. I'm the Property Training Manager here at CNC, and with me today is...
Rusty Garrett, another property training manager here at CNC.
Thank you for being here, Rusty. And I know you've obviously watched the Claims Corner, but have you been on before, either as a guest or a host before?
No, this is my first time.
Okay,
so
good deal.
I'm very, thank you guys for having me and excited to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Rusty. And we do have some great guests today. First thing, before we get into that, we want you to go ahead, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also hit that bell icon that you see there as well, so that way you get notified of any future content, whether we go live, when we post a new video. That's how you can kind of stay connected and stay up to date with us throughout this season or any of our other content, such as the New Adjuster podcast. I'm wearing that shirt today, and any of our other training videos that we publish on our YouTube channel. So again, very excited to have you with us. If you've missed any of our previous episodes from this season or previous seasons of Claims Corner, go back and give them a watch or a listen wherever you get your podcasts and or broadcasts. So we also want everybody to please participate in the Q&A session today. We will also have the comment section open in the YouTube. Obviously, with it being a live broadcast, we will address those at the end in a Q&A type of environment. One more quick thing. CNC will be at PLRB this upcoming 2 weeks from now. It'll be March 17th through the 20th in Boston, Massachusetts. We will be at booth 1328. Stop by, participate in the naming of our new mascot. And Rusty, you know what our new mascot is, right?
I believe it's a shark, is it not?
It is a shark. Yeah. So we will have the shark there. The mascot will be there. I can't tell you who will be wearing it. That's another secret to it. But we will be asking people to participate in the naming of our mascot. So we do have 3 options, Rusty. These options are Joshua, Finn Diesel, and Finnegan, which I think is very... I think that's
very appropriate for especially being in Boston on
St. Patrick's
Day.
That's exactly right.
That's very appropriate.
Give me your early vote now if you had to pick a name.
On what we were just discussing, the Boston and St. Patrick's Day coming up, I'm leaning a little towards Finnegan.
I think Finnegan's my pick too. Also, you can put in the comments too for your vote. I think we will actually be putting a poll in the comments today as well, so folks can vote on the name as well. It won't be the complete deciding factor, but it will go towards the final tally of votes. So let's go ahead and introduce our guests. I will pass it over to them, our folks from TVTC, Safety Training Center, and I will let them do their introductions now.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel Capers. I'm the Regional Training Director here at Tennessee Valley Training Center, otherwise known as TVTC. I've got
Ashley Carrill. I'm the Gulf Coast Operations Manager.
Daniel and Ashley, we're so happy to have you guys. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect to go over in this episode.
Yeah, so we were happy to partner with you guys. A few weeks ago, we started talking about some hazards associated with roof access. Your adjusters are exposed to lots of hazards, but we focused on commercial roof access and residential roof access. And we'll talk about some of the hazards associated with those, and then more importantly, how to recognize those and then mitigate those hazards.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff, and I'm excited about jumping into that. Rusty, you actually have some statistics that you looked up as well, right?
I do. I think it's important to take a second to ask, why is this important? Or why does any of this matter outside of the obvious, right? So last year, over 150,000 Americans required medical treatment for roof-related injuries last year. And as of December 23rd, this past year, 2023, roofing, there was an article that came out that proposed and announced that roofing has the second highest workplace fatality rate in the U.S., which is up from 5th since 2014.
So it's getting more and more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as the rest of these, there's a couple more statistics here, and that's a great point, Murphy. Great to note on that. There's a trend that's being set here, and see if you can follow it here in these next couple statistics. As I mentioned, it's up from 5th.
Right.
All right, in 2014. And there's an increase of fatalities 7.8% in the last 2 years.
Right.
Okay, so again, that trend, right? So 80.6% of those fatalities were due to a fall, a trip, or a slip. Wouldn't you say very preventable accidents?
Which I think directly ties into what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
So yeah, with that trend obviously on its way up, and again over the last couple of years it continues to go up. I think it really calls into what we're talking about today and how important it is. I'm really glad that we're publishing this now because as we know, we're getting into prime hail season. There's going to be a lot of roof inspections. Hurricane season, starts in June and goes basically through around that November month. So again, we're really starting to get into that. And I think this episode will basically be a good call to action to that. So without further ado, let's jump into part 1 of our episode today. Hey everybody, here we are again on site at TVTC here in Mobile, Alabama. Again, my name is Murphy. I'm here with Rusty Garrett and Mr. Daniel Capers. So Daniel, let's go ahead and jump into it today. Talk to us about what we're going to be doing here on site today.
Hey, good morning. So we're going to talk about accessing commercial and industrial roofs. When your field adjusters are out in the field, there's some hazards associated with that. So we'll look at some of those, talk about some of those and ways to mitigate or minimize the risk to us as we're climbing and doing our assessments out in the field.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Let's talk about, too, some of the equipment we got here behind us. So let's kind of go through this stuff and what we're going to be using today, and what we're going to be demonstrating today.
Probably one of the first things to get up there, we need a ladder, right? So have we picked the right kind of ladder? And we'll talk about some of the hazards associated with that, things that we need to look out for. And then if we have personal fall arrest systems, are we going to use it? Has it been inspected? Are we trained on using that kind of stuff? All that's what we will want to consider before we ever leave the ground.
Gotcha.
Other parts of that is we'll do a hazard assessment of the area, where I'm going to put my ladder. Is the foundation correct? Is the ladder at a good angle? That kind of thing. So we'll walk through all of those things before we're done here today.
Absolutely.
Daniel, what are some of the things that we can do before the inspection, before we get on site, to kind of inspect and make sure that the area is safe and secure for us, kind of a precursor of where to set the ladder up and with the geography and the building wise?
Rusty, that's a great question. I think some of the time the pre-game and pre-plan, that's where all the work comes in. We got to think this thing through before we ever get there. So am I taking what I need? What's the building that I'm going to be accessing today? Do I have pictures? Can I look at it and figure out if it has a facade? And we'll talk about some of the risk associated with those. The equipment that I have in the back of my truck, car, whatever it might be, have I inspected it lately and that kind of thing. Traffic in the area, surface encumbrances where we're going to set up the ladder, lots of that. So pre-planning is the key to making this thing work.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So when he talks about kind of pre-scoping it or really getting your game plan about you before you get on site, are there certain things that you would say adjusters, and I know you guys aren't adjusters, but from an adjuster's point of view, are there certain OSHA standards that they should kind of have in mind whenever they get on site in order to be as safe as possible when inspecting a commercial roof?
Yeah, so Murphy, the OSHA standards, we kind of fall into a gray area with your adjusters because the gray area is OSHA doesn't dictate that these guys should do this.
Right.
It's a best practice kind of thing, and it's what risk am I willing to accept before I get on this roof.
Gotcha.
So the standards themselves, whether they're the 1910 or 1926 standards that refer to safety specifically within the OSHA world, they'll give us some good guidelines and best practices. I would recommend to your adjusters, do some research, do some homework, figure out what's available, what tools are available, and then best practices that other guys are doing when they're accessing the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Rusty can speak to this too, obviously, as a former field adjuster and even an active field adjuster. I think the biggest thing is the not knowing, or they don't have the knowledge of what tools are out there. So I'm glad that we're doing this today and we can go over some of that stuff and maybe give adjusters out in the field some ideas of what they can use, what will make it more safe for them. Because again, I know it brings up a lot of anxiety when you have a commercial roof or a steep residential, which we'll get into later in today's video. It's that not knowing what I should use, what's the most safe way to inspect that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to bring up, Rusty, real quick is, do we even need to get on the roof? If we can eliminate the need to climb up there to begin with, then we've eliminated the option to fall. So, some of the technologies that we have out there today, drones, do we have those? Are they available? Can we use them? Even a pole-mounted camera, something like a GoPro, is it something that we just can stick up there, do an inspection, or do we actually have to access the roof and walk around on?
Absolutely, and I can't wait to get into that a little bit more with you when we get on the residential side. That actually absolutely even carries over on the commercial side as well.
Yeah, yep.
Daniel, what are some of the things, when we go to set up our ladder, what are some of the key things that we need to remember to establish when setting up that ladder?
Yeah, let's talk about the ladder itself. So first of all, I want to choose a ladder that's good for what we're doing. Is it the right ladder? There's so many what I call fancy ladders out there. They unfold and it makes them real convenient to carry around, so we might have those in the truck. But we want to pick a ladder, first of all, that is structurally sound. Have we inspected it? We looked at all the rungs, made sure everything's appropriate. And then weight limits. Ladders have weight limits. They come in classifications from 1 up to 3A. It's kind of odd, the lower the number, the higher the weight rating on the ladder. They go up to 300 pounds plus, that'd be a level 1 ladder. So look at that, make sure you picked out the right tool to start with. And then we'll talk about proper placement. I think that might be one of the most important things to look at. Absolutely. Ladders aren't meant to be used like a bridge in this configuration, and we don't want them like a stairwell. We want a 4-to-1 ratio, and I'll talk about that a little bit. When we set the ladder up, a 4-to-1 ratio, for every 4 feet in height that we're going to climb, we want the ladder 1 feet out from the vertical direction that we're climbing. So that 4-to-1 ratio, and just for me, I recommend your field adjusters kind of figure it out for themselves unless they want to carry a measuring tape all the time. But I would stand directly under that vertical piece if I can, or right against the wall that I'm going to climb onto, and then stick my hand out. That'll give me a good rule of thumb. Is it perfect? No. Is it going to get us close? Absolutely.
Daniel, you and I had also previously discussed safety steps like maintaining 3 points of contact. What are some other safety precautions that we can consider when setting up and accessing our ladder?
Great question. So to maintain 3 points of contact, we would need to think about what do we have to carry up with us. So the only way to maintain 3 points of contact is to have your hands free. So if we're taking up measuring tapes, tools, and things like that, or even cameras, we would have things like a bag that we could hoist up after we get into a safe position. So just a little bit of pre-planning, pre-gaming, that would make all that much better for us.
That sounds good. Murphy, you want to demonstrate 3 points
Absolutely.
of
Hold
contact
that for
us?
me. All right.
So 3 points of contact here is either 1 foot and 2 hands. So your first step, you're going to be a conscious effort to maintain that. And then as you go up, you'll watch how easy it is to not maintain 3 points of contact. So as you take a step, so there you go. Now we have the 3 points of contact. So as quick as he lets go of this hand, this foot should be down here. So there's our 3 points. We got 2 feet and 1 hand, or any combination of that, whatever you can come up with.
Gotcha. Good demonstration. Now, one thing I do want to talk about before we actually get up on the roof today is let's talk about some of this equipment we have. We've got a couple different types here. Let's talk about when each one is used, maybe what's the most useful for one of our adjusters inspecting a commercial roof, but let's go through each of them while we're down here on the ground.
You bet. So what we have first is a safety harness. These come in, just like the cars you drove in today, all kinds of makes, models, kinds, and colors. There's a lot of them available. The main thing is to find one that you're comfortable with and then get the proper training on using this thing. That proper training would go into inspections and things like that. We also have a self-retractable lanyard. The self-retractable lanyard works on the same principle as a seatbelt in your car. So you can pull it out nice and slow when you're inspecting it or ascending, but if you were to fall, it's going to lock up and arrest your fall, if you will. In this, it also has a shock-absorbing lanyard. It's going to minimize the impact of that shock on your body as you go. Other things that you might use are rope grabs or ascenders, depending on where you are. They're called different things. As we're climbing, this will be tied off to a point on the roof, a fixed point that's already there. As you're moving up, you can manipulate this and it will slide. If you'll hold that, Murphy, this will slide up the rope. We can move it or slide back down, but if we're fall, that's going to arrest the fall, and now it will not fall. This will be connected to the back of the D-ring of your harness there. This is just another version of a harness. It's no better, no worse. They just come with different features, comfort features, and things like that.
Yeah. I think one thing too, and Rusty, you can speak about this, it's one thing to have the equipment, it's the other part to have the training on it, like he was talking about, and knowing how to use it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can buy this stuff all day long, but until you actually get comfortable with it and take the initiative to learn more about it, it's pretty much useless just sitting in your bag. So make sure you take that time to go through proper training channels and actually learn about the equipment that you've purchased.
Right, absolutely. All right. Go ahead.
So a gearhead, you can buy this stuff and buy 20 other things to attach to it. Don't be that gearhead. Just get what you need, because if you start attaching different D-rings, different baskets, bolts, bags, and things like that, it's just going to make it more cumbersome for you. If you don't need the equipment, don't purchase it. Save you on money as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point there as well. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We are going to go ahead and jump up on the roof, and we will resume from up top. All right, everybody, now that we're actually up on the roof here at TVTC, Daniel, let's talk about, we came up on the roof right here in an area that did not have a facade like we talked about earlier. Let's talk about why we did that and even show the side that does have a facade. Let's go into it.
Sure. Facades can be some of the most dangerous parts that you guys are going to encounter out in the field. For instance, if you look at the ladder that we just came up on, we only have about 24 inches of side rail sticking up above. Ideally, you would want 3 feet above that. A facade might encumber you. You can't get that 3 feet.
Right.
So as we step off the ladder here, we have a nice flat surface. That may not be the case, and quite often it's not. Rusty's seen plenty of instances like that. So if you look to that direction over there, you'll see that there's an actual facade. So if you're going to set up a ladder to come in that direction, your first step would be what, 3-4 feet down?
Right.
Exactly. And it would definitely be a surprise to you.
Right.
And then even after that, you got to think about, how do I get back over that facade as you're climbing?
Exactly. So Rusty, how can you kind of prevent that and really, again, have a game plan before you even get on site?
Well, very simply, we want to utilize the resources that we have access to, right? We want to do a complete walk around of the facility or residential structure that we're attempting to access. Make sure that we have taken the time we needed to find that best access point. Also, do your pre-inspection work. Utilize your resources from Google Satellite. You may have a drone that you've been licensed to operate that you may be able to utilize to access those points. But again, it's very simply using the resources that are available to us.
Yeah.
Then put in that preliminary work in order to most safely access the structure we're trying to inspect.
Right. And Daniel, obviously being in this field too, if Rusty or I were the adjuster and we were to call you and say, hey, can you kind of tell me what's the easiest point of access, you'd probably be able to give that information as well.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times that policy holder or commercial building that you're inspecting, they'll be able to tell you that as well. They'll be able to tell you, hey, there's a facade on the front of the building, but if you access it from the back, you should be a lot more safe going up that way as well.
Great point, Murphy. That's part of that homework research that Rusty's talking about. Use those resources that we have available.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the roofing hazards when you actually get on the roof. It's one thing to get up here, but another thing when you get on the roof is the hazards that are present while you're on the roof. Let's talk about some of those that you might run into.
You bet. Think about it. Why are you guys here? Something went wrong. We had some sort of catastrophe, whether that's fire, natural disaster. What's the roof situation when you get up there? Is it structurally sound? It might, like this roof, look great. Rusty and I were talking a little bit earlier about a shingle roof. The underlayment there, your plywood substructure, that might not be structurally sound. So if you get the opportunity to do your homework, walk inside the building, take a look up at the areas you think you might be walking on and see what's there, what's going to hold you.
And Rusty, you know as well from being up on commercial roofs such as this, what's some things that you look for from the adjuster's point of view when you get up here and you start walking around?
Well, again, just to kind of caveat of what Daniel said, I call it a sure step. There's no really sure step. Make sure that you're completely aware of your senses when inspecting any sort of roof structure. Obviously, you know, but the one thing that I refer to as a sure step is you never know when that next step might be an incidental one. Okay, so make sure that every step you take is an intentional one, deliberate, and precautious when inspecting any type of roof surface.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the word soft spots earlier. Let's touch on that. I think that's big for adjusters.
All right, as we can see here, as Daniel mentioned earlier, sometimes we have a shingle roof, sometimes we had bitumen type of roofing, but a lot of times you're not going to be able to see and verify the quality of that structure underneath that roof covering surface. So again, back to what I mentioned about the sure step is be aware that underlayment may be faulty or
could be compromised.
Absolutely compromised. So just be aware of that with each step you take when inspecting a roof surface area.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Daniel, since we've kind of moved locations here, we've talked about the hazards of getting up on the roof, right? Let's talk about the hazards now of when you're actually on the roof. We talked about what may be under your feet, but let's talk about what you may also see kind of in your 360 assessment.
Yeah, that's what I call the up, down, all around, Murphy. What's up there that's going to bother us? For instance, right behind Rusty, we have an air conditioning system. Has the electrical system been compromised? Where are we going to put our hands when we're walking around? And let's face it, we're in South Alabama on a beautiful day. You might not be, so let's think about creepy crawlies that are up here, wasps, bees, even a bird startling you. Is the bird going to bother you? No, but you're startling a situation when you recoil from that bird, that might cause you to fall off the roof or something like that.
Absolutely. You know, and you talked about obviously being here in South Alabama, it's a beautiful day today, but weather conditions that could make it, you know, slippery when you walk, or hey, maybe there's ice, snow on the, on the commercial roof, those types of things. So
what about if we're conducting an inspection after a catastrophe loss and we've got down power lines that cross the roof structure surface area that we're trying to inspect. How should we approach that?
Yeah, so coordinate with your local emergency management agency. I would contact them. Again, that's part of our pre-gaming and pre-planning part of it. That's going to be so important. Ask them, has the power been cut to the building? Find the superintendent or the lessee or the leaseholder, or whoever's holding that building, and say, hey, has the power been cut? Is there anything I need to watch out for? And then verify if you get the opportunity to. There's an old saying, trust but verify.
Absolutely.
In my world, I like to verify.
Yeah.
Yeah, good deal. Well, and I know a lot of times we talk as adjusters too. Sometimes on commercial inspections, it takes 1 or 2 inspections. You know, it's not just the one that you would do on a residential.
Yeah.
So there may be a time where you come out here and you do that pre-assessment and you kind of get your bearings about you, see what's going on at that property, and then the second time is when you actually put boots on the roof. So, absolutely.
Great. And then think about that second trip. Conditions change, right?
Exactly.
Somebody's been there after we left, so
right.
Think about what they've
Exactly. Or the weather conditions have changed, so on and so forth.
You bet.
Or the damage could be more extensive than the first time.
Absolutely.
You know? Absolutely.
All right, we talked about the facade area around the perimeter of our commercial building when looking where to access our ladder and set up our ladder and what the potential hazard may be when setting up our ladder against the facade. Daniel, tell us a little bit about why that would be a bad idea or what we can do if we need to set up against the facade.
You bet, Rusty. So a facade is usually the pretty part of the commercial building. So outside you would have lettering and things like that. Sometimes it's not even structurally sound. For instance, let's look at this facade. Give you some perspective, this is probably closer to 5, maybe even approaching 6 feet here. So if we had our side rails of the ladder sticking 3 feet above, which is the ideal situation, how would we even go about getting down from here? Is it structurally sound to climb on or anything like that?
Absolutely. All right, so now that we've talked about how to get down from the area with the facade, let's go ahead and talk about the area without the facade the same way we came up. All right, Daniel, so we've gotten on the roof, we've done our inspection. Now the biggest thing is getting down, right? Everybody thinks, oh, the hard part is getting up, when in reality the hard part may be the getting down. So let's talk about some safety precautions that we should take and things that we should do to ensure there are no hazards on the way back down the ladder.
Great point, Murphy. Historically, getting down has been the hardest part. Right. We've actually seen guys freeze on top of the roof and have to go get them. So when we talk about getting down, is the ladder where I left it? Has it been bumped down bottom? Ideally, if you want somebody to hold that ladder down bottom, but I understand adjusters are usually solo. They're out by themselves, so it takes special thinking and assessment before we start down. Maintain 3 points of contact, that's huge. You want to back down the ladder, and we'll demonstrate that shortly. Some of the things you don't want to do is climbing down face first like I did as a kid. Might seem fun, but it's definitely not the right way to do it.
Right. And you talked about some of the features as well, like the bungees and the clamps. Let's touch on those too.
Sure. There's all kinds of devices out there. If your mind can imagine it, somebody's probably designed and built it to sell to you. So do your homework there. Figure out what's available. What roof am I going to get on? There's bungee cords, there's ladder locks, there's ladder keeps, and a bunch of different commercial names out there. It takes a little bit of research on your point. Murphy can talk a little bit about those. I kind of threw that at you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the main thing that we want to keep in mind what you're saying is that we want to find some way, whether it be as simple as a bungee cord or some new mechanical gadget, whatever, that we want to secure the top of our ladder to where we climbed over and accessed the roof at. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So secure to this building, and if you look, there's not a lot of places to secure. So we would just do a hazard mitigation assessment in our head where we're going to approach the ladder slowly, grab the handrails. That's another benefit of them sticking up 3 feet above the surface that we're going to step off onto. That gives us some purchase or something to grab as we go.
All right, everybody, we just wrapped up here on site at TVTC here in Mobile. Thanks again, Daniel. Let's kick it back to ourselves in the studio for our IEOW segment with Daniel Capers. And the next time you see us, we will be at our training house at Polaris. All right, great first segment when we talk about accessing commercial roofs safely. That's our key word there, safely. But let's go ahead and jump into our IYOW segment. IYOW, I-Y-O-W, in your own words. It's a new segment that we've been doing this year on Claims Corner, and it is where we pose a, in your own words, one question to our guests. So, Daniel, our IYOW segment question this week is brought to you by Blue Leopard Agency, a marketing agency that's redefining success in the digital age. Visit blueleopardagency.com today to discover how they can tailor a marketing plan that's as unique as your brand. Don't wait. Take the first step toward marketing success right now. So, Daniel, Our question, what is the most common reason for falls during inspection? We know that there's a lot. I mean, really, there's a ton of them out there. But if you had to say what the most common reason is, just one of them, what would you say?
Murphy, I'm going to answer that in two parts. I'm going to break it down like this. I think one of the biggest failures is failure to recognize the hazard itself or failing to recognize how serious the hazard it is. Then we're just guessing, right? We're relying on luck. Our inability or unwillingness to do a hazard assessment and rely on that data. We need to figure out what's there, do an up, down, all around that 360 assessment, figure out how serious the hazard is. The other part of that, and unfortunately, I think we fall into this trap sometimes, is complacency, where we become or get overconfident in our own ability. We think we're more capable than we are. We think our gear is more capable than it is. And those two things coupled together probably result in most of the injuries and accidents out there. I think that's what you would think.
Yeah. Rusty, what about you? If you had to pinpoint, do you agree with that? Different one?
Absolutely. One other thing that I want to throw out there, just to kind of caveat off what Daniel said, is another one maybe, we don't think we have enough time.
Right.
Especially in catastrophe situations where you're out there working fast. Exactly. If you feel like you're never going to get ahead, okay, we might put time in front of safety.
Right.
All right. Well, just another kind of a couple of statistics that we were talking about earlier. The average time away from work back in 2011 was 11 days. Okay. Well, here again, on that trend that we were discussing earlier, that's since increased to over 25 days per average of missed work.
Yeah.
So when you factor that in and you put that time in front of the importance of safety, think about all that you could be potentially missing out on.
Right.
Okay. You put yourself out of work, then you miss that next appointment.
Right. Yep.
Okay. And this is a very competitive and career and industry.
Yeah.
And once you've put yourself unnecessarily out of being able to be deployed or to be able to work, especially as adjusters, we depend on making a living off of being able to work.
Yeah, especially when it's something that could have been prevented in the first place if you take the right measures.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, again, if you've got questions along the way, put them in the YouTube comments in the chat below. Let's go ahead and jump into part 2 of our episode today. All right, everybody, here we are again on site with Daniel Capers and Rusty here at our training house in Mobile, Alabama. So, Daniel, let's talk about main key differences between commercial roofs and residential roofs, even the obvious ones.
Sure. Some of the most obvious you're going to see is, first of all, you have the slope or pitch of the roof when you drive up to a 12-12, which is really, really steep, down to a 3-12, which is probably pretty common down here in the south because we don't have to worry about snow shed and that kind of thing. Right. Other differences would be facades on buildings. Obviously, you probably don't have a facade, but some of the things you may have is upper decking, dormers, windows, things like that you would have to contend with.
Gotcha. Very true.
What are some of our exterior hazards that we need to be aware of before beginning our inspection?
Yeah, so let's think about the residential area. First of all, power lines, entrance cables coming into buildings at a minimum 480 volts. They're usually much closer to us than what they would be on an industrial or commercial building. Then think about things like down on the ground level as fences. How close are they? How tall are they? Do I have to maneuver around those things? Trees, what do we have in the area? Shrubbery, bushes, landscaping, all that comes into a play.
Yeah, because I know a lot of times, like if you see the house, like for example, this one here's got bushes along the front. That's part of that pre-game or pre-planning, like we talked about before. Maybe getting a Google satellite image and see, hey, what's the easiest way to get on this roof, as opposed to having to have my ladder at a funky angle like that to get over those bushes as well. So,
yeah, knowing where you're going, what you're doing, and that pre-gaming is all part of that hazard assessment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, we have made it to the back of the house here at Polaris. So, Daniel, we talked about some of this equipment while we were at the commercial building. So let's get more into it. Rusty's going to do a quick demonstration of how to put on the harness system. So as he's doing that, a couple questions for you. Rusty, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Are these adjustable? Is it one size fits all? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, great questions. That's come from knowing your equipment. So if you're going to go out and buy this equipment, they come from $59 to $459. So get what you're comfortable with, but then understand how to wear it properly. And that's going to come with training and doing. So what Rusty's putting on here is probably our $59 to $79 harness that you can go get in Lowe's, Home Depot, any of your big box stores. But there's no one size fits all. You want to think about what size you are. There's some sizing charts. Usually at the site of purchase, there's some sizing charts. What he's doing here is getting the chest piece across here. This is the pass through. So what we'll do is we'll pass this piece through, and then this locks in like so. That's it. He's going to then come and tighten up the leg pieces. Rusty, I'm going to help you here if you don't mind. I'm going to jump right in. So we'll pull this piece out and pass this back up. And Rusty, what I want you to do is pull this tight enough that I can't get, or you can't get, more than a couple fingers between that strap right there. And then that's going to be tight enough. Now, before you do all of that, you want to think about what's in my pocket. One of the craziest injuries that I've recently seen was a young man fell with the harness on, and you think, oh, okay, everything's great. He's going to hang around and wait on rescue. What happened was that lithium-ion battery in his cell phone, that broke, and then he ended up with a nice burn on his body before we got him down. So think about what's in your pocket, keys, phones, and things like that. All right, Russ, you got that nice and tight?
I do.
So what you want to look for is there should be no more than 2 fingers between this chest strap here. If I can get 4 in there and push in and get 4, that's probably too loose. But I think you're perfect there. I kind of pushed on a little too hard. If you will, Rusty, turn around. Here you have your self-retractable lanyard. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. He's got it attached to the D-ring. Rusty, you have this D-ring exactly where you want it. You want it between the shoulder blades, high and center of the back. That's going to give you the best positioning in the event of a fall. That feel good to you, Rusty?
Sounds great. Feels great.
All right, one thing I'm sure everybody is wondering is what is this piece of equipment here in front of us? So Daniel, I'm going to pass over to you. Go into what this is and how do we use it as adjusters?
You bet. One of the first challenges you're going to see when you get out to a residential site is how do we get up there? What's the first person up options that we have? Technology changes all the time, just like the cars we drove in. Here's an example of that technology in the field. This is called a hip lock, H-I-P-P-L-O-C-K. There's versions of this out there. This happens to be one from Hip Lock. So what you would do is you would push this thing up, and then we'll demonstrate it in a second. We'll roll it over at the top, and the device up top grabs or holds onto the peak of the building. That becomes your tie-off point. It's rated for 5,000 pounds, which is what the industry standard is. Rusty, if you'll help me demonstrate this, so if you'll look, you can get different extensions for this thing. Here's what we're going to do. This is an ascender. As Rusty is going up the ladder, this will go up or down with him. In the event of a fall, a cam lock is going to stop your fall, much like it does in your car with the seat belts. So I'm going to attach this to his D-ring in the back that he has positioned correctly. And Rusty, if you'll start up the ladder, I'm here, so I'm going to help. I'm going to push this as you go. If you'll take this and take it up with you, and just position yourself at the top of the ladder.
All right.
And it might be easier if you climb and make your 3 points of contact first, and then when you get up top, just pull it up and adjust it.
Sounds great.
So now that Rusty's in position there, as we're rolling this up, Rusty, if you can take it there and go ahead and get it to the crown. And then roll it over so that that clamping device is situated on the center of the building. Now what Rusty's done is effectively create an anchor point at the top of the building there. So he's free to walk around the top of the building. He can go left, he can go right. He can even climb on the other side of the building by positioning himself on the ridge and then adjusting the strap to go to the other side of the hip lock device.
Right, so with that ascender, as long as he has that, and it's attached to his hip if I'm not mistaken, so as long as he has that, he can take out slack, give slack as he's accessing different parts
Absolutely.
of the roof.
So that's part of the fall arresting system. As if he starts to fall, in the event of a fall, that's going to catch him and prevent him from coming over the edge.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Good deal. All right, so now that we're up on the roof and we've used the hip lock, let's talk about some more of the components now that we're actually up here with it.
Sure, so this hip lock comes built in. This rope system that's attached to it has a shock absorber on it, so in the event of a fall, it's going to decrease that shock that's on his body when he falls. This particular device is good for steep roofs, or obviously this one's not so steep. Rusty, what is this, about a 412? 312, somewhere in there, so not so steep, really easy to climb on. If it were a steeper roof, like a 812, 1012, or even the real steep 1212 roofs, this would come in real handy for the first person up on the job site.
Absolutely.
So if you'll look at Rusty right here, the ascender descender in his hand, he can ascend and move around freely. In the event of a fall, Rusty, you can use your hands and just kind of lean back. This thing's going to grab, it's going to hold you up. And again, this is just one of many options that are out there available. Hip lock happens to make a really, really nice one. Feel comfortable there, Rusty?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great.
and Rusty can speak to this as well from a a residential field adjuster that does residential roofs. A lot of times people show up at a house, they live in a house, so they look at it and they think, no problem, I can get up there, I'm not worried about the safety aspect of it. Rusty, how important is it to look at that ahead of time and just look at not only slope of the roof, but what are maybe even some of the the roofing surfaces that you have to be aware of?
Well, let me point out, if you've ever been on a roof before, you'll know the view from the top is a lot different than the view from the bottom.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have that vision of them being able to manipulate and access the roof, think a lot differently when they actually get up here.
Right.
But again, we want to be aware of any falling debris like pine straw. Some of the other safety hazards might be loose shingles. All right, so a little bit of what we were talking about in that previous video. Make sure that every step counts. Be a little bit more cognizant of making sure that you're intentionally taking every step safely while on the surface of the roof. Another thing is make sure that you've taken the precautionary measures such as safety footwear. All right, there are preformed safety performance footwear boots out there that and other footwear to help you access the roof in a more safe manner.
Good point, Rusty. There's lots of devices out there, including clothing. There's clothing that you can buy that actually helps you adhere to the roof better. Things like lizard skin, they're made to help you not slide off that roof if you had to kneel down or things like that. Great points on the equipment. The other thing that I would add, Rusty, if you're going to go out and buy this equipment, training is important. Don't just grab it, use it for the first time. The first time you use it doesn't mean the first time you took it out of the bag.
Right.
Take it out of the bag, get familiar with it before you ever get on the roof.
Yeah, so one thing I do want to touch on, are there certain installation and maintenance guidelines that have to be kept up in order to provide the most amount of safety for an inspector?
You bet. What we want to do is inspect this equipment every time pre-use. Before we use it, we want to give it a once-over and inspect it according to the manufacturer's specifications. They designed it, they built it, they know how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to operate. So in the bag that this stuff comes in, and let's face it, we're guys, we throw that piece of paper away, right? On that piece of paper has all the things that we're supposed to look for before we use this equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel, this is all really great equipment, but if an adjuster is interested in purchasing or finding out more information about this equipment, where would they go?
Yeah, you can find this at www.hiplock.com. That's HIPPLOCK.com. You could call Tennessee Valley Training Center or TVTC. We can help with the training, which is also as important as where to purchase this stuff. You want to be trained properly. And then I can put you in touch with the manufacturer of this. Actually, they got it invented. It's a real nice guy named Vince out of Georgia.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some statistics. So I think in today's day and age, people are, they're obsessed almost, right, with the numbers. How often do certain things happen? So let's talk about some statistics of fall prevention and falls in general.
Yeah, we're definitely a numbers-driven society. And let's think about this number. This one kind of scares me, really upsets me. Before we get off this roof today and our day ends with sunset, 2 people will have died across this country. Falls alone. Now, guys, I'm talking about fatalities. I'm not mentioning the ones that were broken up or sent to the hospital or emergency rooms and things like that. But 2 people today will lose their lives in fatalities. I think a lot of that goes toward complacency. We get into this mindset of it'll never happen to me. I've been doing this 20 years. I haven't used this equipment before and that kind of thing. I don't need it.
Right. Right, and even the lack of training, like you touched on before. Yeah. It's one thing to have it; it's another thing to know how to use it.
Absolutely. So it's the complacency part of it. When we talk about, and I really have to dig down into words for me to make it make sense, but complacency in my world means an overconfidence in our own ability.
Sure.
Where we do something so much for so long, we get so comfortable, we kind of put the blinders on and put it on cruise control. Yeah. Unfortunately, in this world, that's when people get hurt. They get hurt bad or worse, dead.
Yeah, well, and like I said, that goes back into the episode title of today, better safe than sorry or worse, to your point there. Okay, absolutely. Another thing, we mentioned it in the IEL segment, but I think it's so important for adjusters and even for us as 3 individuals just standing on this roof to really hammer down the point again and double down on it. What, again, do you think is the biggest reason why people have accidents? Is it the complacency? Is it the lack of training? Combination of both? Is there something else out there?
Great question. I see that as a 2-part answer. Complacency is a huge portion of that, and then hazard assessment. We either fail to do that hazard assessment or we miss something in that hazard assessment. I think, just like a pilot who flies, if we leave Mobile, Alabama and go to Atlanta, Georgia, that pilot's going to go through a check sheet. It's so great to have a check sheet before we ever get somewhere, because let's face it, we got things on our minds.
Sure.
We got families, we got other things going on, but if we have a methodical, systematic way that we can go about how we're going to do something and then what we're going to do, we can identify those hazards before we ever encounter them.
Absolutely. All right, so now we are going to descend from the roof and go ahead and show you how to use this equipment to get down. I'm sure it's easier said than done, so we'll go ahead and demonstrate that for everybody. All right, so now that we're going to get down, let's talk about how do we use the ascender, descender. Rusty's going to do us a demonstration, so Daniel, you take it from here.
Yeah, if you see Rusty, first of all, situational awareness. He has already made sure that nothing's below him, nothing's in his way. He's moved any debris, leaves, pine straw, things like that. And then as he descends, he's going to use the descender in his favor. As he presses the lever on the descender, he can go down. Not going to be a problem. But if he starts to fall, his hands are obviously going to let go, and that descender will do its job, just like here. He's going to descend to the ladder. After he makes it to the ladder, again, maintaining 3 points of contact, he's going to work himself over to the ladder and then work his way down.
Now, and he can go ahead and detach from there once he's on the ladder, correct?
Absolutely. He can go ahead and take the hip lock device off. He can still reach his hip lock device to get it off the roof itself.
Gotcha.
So at this point, Rusty has the rope itself detached from his harness. He can go ahead and go to the ground, safely put the rope out of the way.
Still maintaining 3 points of contact.
Still maintaining 3 points of contact. That's absolutely great. And look what kind of job Rusty did with the ladder. We have at least 3 feet of side rails of the ladder above the surface that we're going to step off onto. And now he's going to come back up. Again, 3 points of contact. To grab the hip lock device, first thing he's going to do is rotate it. And that will allow it to roll back down off the roof. As he's taking it off the roof, then he's just going to stand it safely, descend the ladder, and then he can grab the hip lock and disassemble it from there. Used correctly, it's an awesome device.
All right. Great demonstration. Great demonstration. All right, let's go ahead ourselves and get down, and then we'll wrap up this segment. All right, so as we go to wrap up here, Daniel and Ashley, thanks for joining us. Give us a quick infomercial, really, on TVTC. Go ahead and give us a quick plug.
Sure. TVTC is an industrial training facility. We focus mostly on industrial training. However, residential, commercial, all of that stuff fits in our wheelhouse. We offer lots of different stuff out on Cottage Hill Road in Mobile. We're at 3100 Cottage Hill Road, Suite 112. Ashley can go over contact information and phone numbers. She is our regional Gulf Coast operations manager.
You can call us at 251-338-7470 to reach our Mobile office, and we'll direct whatever you need.
Thanks, Ashley. I appreciate that. Call us anytime. Again, training is key. If you don't know how to use the equipment can't do its job for you.
Yep, I would agree. Rusty and I would back that point up that training is key for adjusters that are new and seasoned alike. So Daniel, Ashley, again, we can't thank you enough for doing this with us today and doing this recording at the commercial building, at your place of business, and here at our training house. Cannot thank you enough. We really appreciate your time. Rusty, any closing thoughts from you?
No, I want to stress the importance of how much safety matters. Like Murphy said earlier, whether you're brand new to this or experienced, never take that safety factor for granted.
Yeah. Thank you again. We'll kick it back to ourselves in the office to do our Q&A segment and then go ahead and wrap it up. Awesome segment there as we talked about the residential safety factors when accessing a roof, getting up and getting down, right? Great, really, both segments today with the commercial and the residential side. Looking in our YouTube chat, it doesn't appear that we have any questions. I think that's a huge credit to our guests. I think they did a great job of explaining things, showing the best processes and procedures on how to safely access roofs, right?
I would totally agree. And just following along that note there, Daniel, Ashley, if adjusters want to reach out to you or find out any more about what all you all do there at TVTC, tell us a little bit about where they can find that information at. And if you wouldn't mind, we just got word that you guys have something pretty exciting coming up in June for adjusters, right?
Yeah, so we're here to help. Whatever you guys need for your training needs, we can come to your facility. You can do it at one of our facilities here on the Gulf Coast. We have an office in Mobile and Pensacola, Florida. So you can give us a call or go to our website. Our phone number is 251-338-7470. Anyone in the office can direct you on where to go to figure out what you need for your training and everything. And then our website is tvtc.org. And yeah, Daniel, if you want to tell them what we have coming up.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a special class for adjusters. We're going to set this up for June 7th. That gives us 90 days so you guys can register and check this out. We're so excited to be partnering with you guys on this segment. What we're going to do is the 5th person who registers for a class, and you can register by either calling, I would recommend 251-338-7470. Anybody at the front desk will be able to help them. Once they register, pay for, and then come to the class, the 5th person is going to get a 10-chance draw. And we're going to give away that hip lock device that you saw in the segment there. Ben said hip lock, said, hey, Daniel, take it, use it, and then find a good home for it. And I think the best home for it will be one of your adjusters out there. So you guys join us when you can, set up for the class, and then come see us here in Mobile or Pensacola. We'll probably hold the class here in Mobile, depending on the facility size and class size. We'll marry the two together. So come on out, make sure you sign up, and let's give that to a good home, put it to good use.
Shoot, yeah.
That does sound like a great opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we will probably have some adjusters that feed into that as well, either on their own or we might direct them in that way. So, because I think that's a great opportunity. We do have a couple things in the chat that I want to go back to, Daniel, if you got some time. So we had a comment talking about hand placement on the ladder from rungs as opposed to side rails. If you had to give your opinion from the safety aspect of it, where would you kind of point adjusters in the direction of?
Yeah, so there's a couple trains of thought there. Gloves are one of the things that comes to mind there.
Right.
Most of the time you want gloves, that's PPE, and you're grabbing those rungs. Think about whose feet were on that the rung the last time, so protect yourself there. That is the safest place to grab it as you're climbing up. Grab the rungs, go up. The side rails are not made for that, although we find ourselves grabbing those probably more often than we should.
Right.
What do you see, Rusty, in out in the field where you've been?
Well, I think one aspect, it's you want to put yourself in the most comfortable. What's the most comfortable position for you in order to successfully and safely climb that ladder? But you also have to consider what the ladder was made for and intended for, and how it was intended to be utilized. So I think Daniel makes some great points there.
Yeah. Another one here. So we had a couple folks in the chat discussing GOAT, Ridge Pro, Hip Lock. Can you talk about, I know you've heard of all of those, obviously. Can you talk about some of the differences in the two? Do you necessarily have a personal preference, if you had to choose if you were an adjuster?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good features on all of those tools. It's a matter of how much you want to spend and then what are you using it for? What kind of pitch routes are you climbing on? Residential most of the time. And then how much storage space you have to transport these things. The GOAT takes up a little bit less space than maybe the Ridge Lock or the others there. So it depends on where you're going to store it, how you're going to use it, and that kind of thing. Do your homework. It's like any of this gear. Do your homework. Read reviews. I rely on those a lot. Check those things out and just come up with the tool that's best for you.
Yeah. So another piece here that we had in the chat as well, I know you've probably seen this, heard about it, you probably even train on it too, but talk a little bit about the ladder mitts that you put on your ladder or roof mats that you put your ladder on in order to basically have it in essence like cougar paws on the bottom of your ladder.
That's right. And you said it, cougar paws. There's chameleon skins, lizard skins, and things like that. It gives you grip, gives your ladder a place to rest, makes it a lot more secure as you're climbing around on it, and almost eliminates the need to tie your ladder off to something. It's going to prop it up for you, hold it there in place while you're ascending and descending. Lots of things out there is available as well, not just for your hands, but even your body once you get on the roof as you're sitting down. They have some overgarments you can put on, some shorts, shirts, and things like that. That'll grab the roof, especially shingles and in residential applications.
Right. I mean, I think, anytime you can compound your safety factors, like we have adjusters that go out in teams, husband and wife, or, a team of adjusters, they go out. Not only can they have someone on the ground holding the ladder, but also use the ladder mitts, lizard skin, ascender, descender, all those kinds of things. The more stuff you use, obviously the higher your safety factor, and the risk goes down. And you get to avoid those hazards, right, Rusty?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think sometimes, as adjusters, we're hesitant to spend the money.
Right.
Because I would encourage everybody to do the research.
Yeah.
Because these items and tools are out there for a purpose, and they can literally be life-saving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, episode title, Better Safe Than Sorry or Worse. Right, because it could always be worse. Rusty's point about people being out of work. It used to be 11 days. Now it's closer to that 25-day mark, closer to a month. And to his point too, you miss out on work, you miss out on opportunities, deployments, which is money in pockets. And that's why you get into this business, not only to help people from the customer service aspect of it, but obviously to make a living as well.
Absolutely.
So, all good stuff. Well, again, I can't thank you, Daniel and Ashley, enough for joining us, for doing the pre-recording at your place of business, and then at our training house all on the same day. Again, can't tell you how much we appreciate your time, obviously, as well with us today. Rusty, obviously want to thank you too for being on Claims Corner, and all of our folks behind the scenes that make these broadcasts possible. Rusty, any final takeaways from today?
I just want to thank you guys for having me. I love that we're getting the word out there, building a community among adjusters. I think that's what it's all about, and it's been a great time, so I look forward to being back in the future.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Rusty. And again, thank you, Daniel and Ashley, and to all of our audience for watching us and keeping up with us today, and we hope to see you next time.